If you grew up in New Zealand, there's a good chance a packet of Bluebird chips found its way into your life somewhere. At a barbecue, in a lunchbox, or snatched from a massive cardboard multi-pack at the supermarket. Ready salted, salt and vinegar, chicken, burger rings and rations, twisties and delizio. Bluebird was the crunch that echoed in Kiwi living rooms and shared with mates on a Friday night. But unlike some Kiwi brands that quietly disappear, Bluebird hasn't vanished. It's still on shelves and still proudly associated with New Zealand culture. So the real question isn't did it die, it's what happened to it, and how did it change from a local favourite into something very different. Bluebird Foods didn't start as a multinational product line. It began humbly back in the late 1940s when a young entrepreneur named Les Saussey started selling popcorn and then potato chips to the roar of the crowds at the Western Springs Speedway in Auckland. While the brand was formally incorporated in 1953, those early years at the Speedway were where the magic happened. His chips were simple, freshly made, salty, and satisfying, but they struck a chord with customers and demand grew quickly. As word spread, so did the product range. Ready salted, salt and vinegar, chicken flavours and more joined the lineup. Bluebird became woven into Kiwi life. Snacks for sharing at parties, for watching the rugby, or for hitting the road. It was ours in the way only a grounded, locally grown brand could be. In the decades that followed, Bluebird expanded from a corner stand impulse treat into one of New Zealand's largest snack food manufacturers. By the early 2000s, you could find Bluebird Originals, burger rings, CCs, Aztec corn chips, grain waves, and a host of other flavours in every dairy and supermarket across the country. Its chips were a staple, a cultural mainstay that you didn't even question. They were just there. But big brands evolve, and Bluebird's evolution is one that many long-time Kiwi snack lovers still debate. The company didn't remain independently Kiwi-owned forever. It was originally part of Goodman Fielder, then acquired by Burns Philp and Company under Graeme Hart in the early 2000s. And in December 2006, it was purchased by the global giant PepsiCo for 245 million New Zealand dollars. That was the turning point. Suddenly, the Bluebird Penguin was part of a global snack portfolio alongside international heavyweights like Doritos and Cheetos. To many, that shift felt subtle at first. Bluebird was still on shelves, Twisties still had their salty bite, burger rings and rations still packed their familiar crunch. But behind the familiarity lay a deeper change. Decisions about products, production, and brand strategy were now being made through the lens of a global corporation. And when a local brand becomes part of a multinational system, the priorities invariably shift. Not because anyone is malicious, but because the frameworks that guide decisions are broader, more data-driven, and more cost-oriented. One of the clearest public manifestations of this shift came in March 2010. Classic corn chip favourites like CC's and Aztec, brands that had their own cult followings, were quietly pulled from regular supermarket shelves and replaced with the global powerhouse, Doritos. PepsiCo pointed to category strategies and corporate taste tests where Doritos allegedly won out, but for many Kiwis, this was the first moment they felt something distinctly Bluebird had been sidelined. It felt like a nostalgic favourite had been traded for a product that, while similar, lacked that specific local identity. The disappearance of CC's and Aztec created enough consumer outcry that fans set up social media groups demanding their return. A reflection not just of taste preferences, but of emotional attachment to a brand they felt was being diluted. That emotional attachment is why we still talk about the lost flavours with such passion. It's not just about the salt, it's about the memory. We think of the Aztec corn chips, which offered a crunchier, more rustic bite than the Doritos that replaced them. We think of the Grain Waves honey mustard, a flavour so distinct it has left a permanent hole in the snack aisle. Even the staples feel different to some. Longtime fans often point to the thinly cut sour cream and chives, swearing the seasoning hit differently in the 90s, or mourning the loss of the crisper line after Bluebird absorbed it. These aren't just snacks, they're landmarks of our upbringing. Bluebird has also played with novelty and controversy to try and keep that Kiwi connection alive. During the COVID-19 pandemic in July 2020, the brand launched 4 unconventional Kiwi-inspired limited edition flavours: paua fritters and lemon, lamington, Sunday roast, and cheese and onion toasty. It was a creative attempt to celebrate local tastes at a time when New Zealanders were feeling particularly introspective about food and identity. Not all experiments landed well. Some reviewers called them baffling or worse, with Lamington drawing reactions that ranged from interesting to outright betrayal. But they became part of the brand's story. It was Bluebird being bold, sometimes divisively so, trying to prove it still understood the Kiwi palate. Product reformulation has also been a flashpoint. In late 2019, PepsiCo New Zealand announced changes to reduce saturated fat across its major snack lines, switching to canola oil for brands including Bluebird Original Cut, Thick Cut, Twisties, Rations, and Burger Rings. This cut saturated fat by up to 85% in some products as part of global health targets. For some consumers, this was a welcome move toward better nutrition. For others, it was another signal that the chips they grew up with were not exactly the same as they once were. The mouthfeel changed, the crunch felt different, and once again, the global mandate overrode the local tradition. Shrinkflation has added another layer to the conversation, and this is where a lot of frustration lives. Many Kiwis say it's not just that packets got smaller, it's that when you open one, it feels like it's mostly air. The bag looks full, but once torn open, you're left with a shallow pile of chips rattling around the bottom. Online forums and comment sections are full of the same sentiment. I know air protects the chips, but it didn't feel this empty before. Whether that's changing packet ratios, tighter portion control, or expectations shaped by memory, the result is the same. The experience no longer matches what people think they paid for. And when prices rise alongside that feeling, it sticks. That frustration is often sharpened by the knowledge that while Bluebird chips are still made in New Zealand, the company itself is owned offshore. As a wholly owned subsidiary of PepsiCo, profits don't stay entirely within New Zealand. They ultimately feed into a global balance sheet and international shareholders. Bluebird pays tax here and employs local workers, but financial control and returns sit outside the country. For some consumers, that matters. It changes how they interpret smaller packets and higher prices. It's no longer just a snack decision or what feels like a local product operating on global terms. So what happened to Bluebird? It didn't vanish. It adapted. What started as a Speedway snack sold by a Kiwi entrepreneur became part of a global food system that brought efficiency, investment, and consistency, but it also meant local instincts now compete with global priorities. The chips are still here. The penguin still smiles. But the brand now answers to a much bigger world than the one it grew up in. So what do you think? Did Bluebird lose something along the way? Or are we just noticing the trade-offs more clearly now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And as always, stay curious.